All right, Shabbat Shalom. First and foremost, I'm going to start by giving all praise, honor, and glory unto the Heavenly Father, the Most High, our Creator and our power, who the world ignorantly calls God. His name is Yahweh, in the name of His only begotten Son, our Lord, our Savior, and our Deliverer, the Messiah, who the world ignorantly calls JC. His name is Yahweh Shai. Call Halayamla, Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rechakodash. And double honors unto the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. And salutations, peace, blessings, and safety unto the hopeful elect. Yeah, man. This lesson was inspired as I was watching the elders out there in Dallas, their camp. Something Elder Yashawamba said, which it wasn't even really to this topic, but it's just something that the elder said because Apostle Rakai, he wanted to chime in and land back off of something that was said, and he pretty much was like, Salakia, and then Elder Yashawamba was like, oh, he like, no, you like, you good. He said, what he say? He said, get your solo in. He said, we a band. And then instantly, this movie came to my mind, which that movie is called Drumline, for those who don't know, good movie. But yeah, that when he said that, this movie and that scene instantly came to my mind because, in my mind, I was thinking like, yeah, we are a band, as the elder stated, and I'm like, we all the thought of, we all have to be on the same accord, when it comes to a band or an orchestra or any kind of composition of music, right? Professionally, everybody's in sync. When you look at those composers, the ones that be wearing those tuxedos and they got the white gloves on and I forget what the actual stick is called, but when they're actually composing the music, hey, they people joke about that, and they there's I guess you can call them memes and parodies and things like that, and even cartoons made after that. But those are that's a hard job because you yourself have to know your music as a composer, but also for those who are actually playing the music, whatever different instruments is a part of that that musical number. Hey, everybody has to be on point, man. Those sounds have to all mesh together to make whatever music is being formulated. And this, hey, it's likened to what we do too. Us being in this truth and us being musicians. We're singing a new song, which is, the Lord, He has opened up our minds to this knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, and refreshed our minds to His name. And we have this word within us to be able to profess this word. When for so long we didn't have this knowledge, we didn't have the understanding of what we have now, the mysteries. So now us being opened up to these mysteries, which we once knew before, right? But we lost that, we lost our way, we got lost. We got cast away. But now the Lord, He has brought us back. And now we're able to sing that song again, man. And we all have to be on the same accord, we have to be in tune with one another. Because for one, if one thing is off, which each of us playing our own musical number have to get it right. But when you think about playing music, not only do you have to master your own instrument and your own sound of whatever you're playing, but you also have to be very mindful of who you're playing with, because you have to be on point. When you playing, you have to certain notes that somebody else may play may be a cue for you. You may have to listen to somebody and wait for a specific sound or wait for them to finish their particular number for you to enter into that, and that it's in sync like that. Or you may play along with somebody, okay? And that's to say, how we do these lessons and how we feed off of each other. A lot of times when one topic is floating around in the body, many brothers are touching on that same topic. Some brothers may be completely in a different mindset, touching on something else, but it's all relevant. It's all in sync in some kind of way. It all comes full circle. And that's how beautiful this truth is, man. It's the analogies that you can use for this truth. But again, us being a part of this band, we all have to be on the same accord because we got to play this thing right. We gotta do this work, man. But just a few precepts that came to mind. Let me get Ephesians 4 and what's that, 15. Let me get the NLT. Excuse me. It's Ephesians 4 and 15 in the NLT. And another point I want to make as well. Matter of fact, I'm gonna read this first. It says, instead, we will speak the truth in love, growing in every way more and more like Hamashiach Yahushua, who is the head of his body, the church. He makes the whole body fit together perfectly. As each part does its own special work, it helps the other parts grow, so that the whole body is healthy and growing and full of love. Okay, and this is very important to keep in mind. Us, keeping in mind our own walk, our own work that we're a part of, but also, like I say, we're sheep as well as shepherds. We are following Yahushua and we following his example and seeking to do our best to, be like unto him. But also we watch over one another, man, because we want the best for one another. That's what it means to be a body, to be on one accord, man. We told to treat each other and to think about each other as we would ourselves. It speaks about esteeming each other greater than ourselves, because we want to see each other do well. Because us looking at each other, it's like we looking at a mirror. We all are a reflection of each other, and just as we want to see ourselves do well, we want to flourish. We want to prosper. We want to endure. We want to see the next brother do the same. This is not a thing of being selfish and all for one. Or what is it? Every man for themselves. It's more so that all for one for all. We all look out for each other while we're looking out for ourselves and striving ourselves. Because like the scriptures say, a little leaveneth the whole lump. This is why brothers be so on it when it comes to misinformation and corrupt doctrine and, things being taught that don't need to be being taught. Even if it's a mistake, because sometimes things get said or certain lessons get put out when there was a misunderstanding or there was a lack of understanding, and it gets corrected or it gets cleared up, and you go from there. But for the most part, it's a lot of self-willed guys out there that are calling themselves representing the body, which they're really not a part of the body, because they don't care for the body. You can't just be like, I'm gonna make sure I do my best to eat what I can, eat as good as I can, but I'm not gonna focus on my lungs though. I'm gonna eat good so my heart can be healthy and my my muscles can be healthy, and but I'm gonna be smoking. I'm gonna smoke every day. You can't do that, man, because that is being counterproductive. You fighting against each other. Everybody has to be on the same accord. You can't just only focus on particular parts of the body and then neglect the other parts and let the other parts just be, free will. So there's a structure, there's an order that we all follow. And that begins with the elder apostles on down to the elder bishops, and then, the elder brothers on down to the younger brothers. We all follow an etiquette, which makes us a body, man. This is why, through the spirit, you don't see the messiness, you don't see the drama and all the extracurricular things going on like you see in pretty much all these other different camps. Because we have a standard that we have to live by, man. And it's not it's for ourselves because, it's our reputation on the line, but at the end of the day, we're representing Yahweh Shai. We are a representation of Yahweh Shai. Him being the head of the church, we being the church. We are representing the head. So we, just like a woman, a husband, her husband is her head, and whatever she do, however she conducts herself, how she carry herself when he's not around, she's a representation of him. Okay, how she carries herself, how she interacts with people, how she speaks, all of that. It's a representation and even a reflection of the husband, the household. Okay, how much more us? We all, we live a certain way so that we can do our best to represent Yahweh Shai in the way that He expects us to. So us being in His body, we're set for the defense of the gospel. We teach the word, and we, brothers give breakdowns, and we touch on the current events and some brothers' history and the milk, so on and so forth. But we also set for the defense of the gospel. It's a full circle thing. Okay, so just that perspective of the character that Nick Cannon was playing. He didn't have that mentality of we all in this together. He had a more selfish mentality. Eventually, in the movie he would learn that, but it was a interesting perspective, because you can apply that. You can that's very relevant, man, because the fact that he let his his roommate, he was a more heavier sleeper. He slept through those drums and the yelling and all of that. So him being his roommate, he was supposed to pick up on that and be like, you know what, I'm not gonna just. I understand. Hey, we have an expectation. We got to get up right now. It's 4:30 in the morning. Yeah, we got to get up. I heard the noise. It woke me up, but it didn't wake him up. So let me do my part and wake him up so we can all be on the same page, because he's not going to be the only one being punished. Even though it's his fault that he overslept and he didn't hear the alarm, we all going to be punished for it. So me looking at him like myself, I don't want him to get punished, and I don't want to be punished for something he did. So let me wake him up. The same way when we in his ministry, we doing our best not to do anything to have the ministry be blamed. We want to properly and rightly divide the word of truth, making sure we teaching the right things, and we're not doing too much. And when we see others, teaching and call themselves being prophets, we also take heed to their works, making sure everything is on point, because again, we all a representation, and we want to make sure that representation is on point. 1 Corinthians 1:10. Now I beseech you, brethren, by the name of our Lord Yahweh Shai HaMashiach, that ye all speak the same thing, and that there be no divisions among you, but that ye be perfectly joined together in the same mind and in the same judgment. Okay, again, going back to how a little leaveneth the whole lump. Okay, and much more now in these last days. You're starting to see a lot of separation taking place because of that very reason of there's some that want to go and they want to create their own puzzle, so to speak. Hey, we supposed to be a body already given a specific shape that's supposed to just mesh together with what's already given. But you got these self-willed individuals that want to go make their own puzzle. They want to be the centerpiece, and they want other people to come and link up with them and make a whole separate picture, man. They're trying to go up some other way. And that's unhealthy, and that's going to end bad for those who do that and those who take part in it. Okay? Trying to teach these things that's misleading and confusing the sheep that's coming in, that's the new learners. Telling them that it don't matter, or we don't have the name of the Lord yet, or it don't matter what you call him. It don't, the Most High don't care if you put a RFID chip in you. You know, hey, it's so much new shit nowadays. You just can't keep track, man. IUIC is teaching some other crazy shit now. They teaching hell. They teaching, oh man, it's just so much, man. Because when you lying and when you coming from a point of deceit, you have to keep on adding to it to make whatever you said last make sense. Because eventually, whatever you said, even though it may fool somebody, it may work on the simple. Eventually, it's gonna catch on. Something is gonna happen, or something is gonna be said to debunk that, and that's gonna be found out to be false. So now you have to come with something else to cover that up, and that's it's just pointless. So it's much easier and much simpler to keep it real, to just present the truth as it is, man. This truth does not need anything added nor taken away. It's always going to be powerful, much more powerful as it is, man. Okay, this being the word of the Lord. Okay, but the point, man, of us being fitly joined together, us being on one accord. All right, not only in the music aspect, but also how we move. Okay, because if I'm hanging around you, the things that I do by myself will and can fall back on you. Okay, if I'm out there being, well, I'm not gonna say me. If you hanging around somebody, right, and when you together, y'all on the same page, y'all all on one accord. That's not saying you robots or no cookie cutter shit. Just being exactly like, but just being in the same mind, having that same conduct, the same level of respect, the honor, the integrity, so on and so forth. Okay, but when we separate and you go your way, now you just being a whole nigga. You getting smack face drunk every day. You smoking weed on the low. You out there, you committing adultery. You really don't believe. When we together and we teaching, you really faking. You really don't believe what you teaching. You actually believe there might be a hell. You believe that it's okay to call Yahushua Jesus. You really think all these other different things. You let them seducing spirits get to you. But when you come around, you try to play this role. No, eventually it's going to be a separation made, because the truth is always going to prevail. Okay, everything that you may try to hide is going to manifest eventually. All right. So that's why it's so important, man. And when you say one band, one sound, and we all on the same page, through and through. Okay, I'm gonna get this last precept. All right, 1 Corinthians 14, and starting at verse 6. This is the TPT version. It says, "My dear friends, what good is it if I come to you always speaking in tongues? But if I come with a clear revelation from the Most High, or with insight, or with a prophecy, or with a clear teaching, I can enrich you. Similarly, if musical instruments such as flutes or string instruments are out of tune and don't play the arrangement clearly, how will anyone recognize the melody?" Okay, and in the KJV, it's speaking about that certain sound. Okay, especially when it comes to us teaching His word, right? The scriptures even tell us to take heed how we build. What we're doing right now is considered building. We're building that spiritual house of David, man. Okay. What we're doing right now, man, is a very serious work that has to be tended to properly. You can't just do anything. This ain't no McDonald's job. This ain't no corner store job. This is a very serious work, man. That's so serious and so valuable and important that it will be written and talked about. Well, it's already written about, but it's going to be talked about and remembered and spoken of for generations, man, and we talking about forever, for all of eternity. Okay, Lord willing, we endure unto the end, man, and we be those men written in that book of life. If we're gonna be, this work that we're doing is gonna be spoken of forever. Okay, taught. Even right now, we speaking about different accounts and different stories and things that happened thousands of years ago. How much more in the end when this is all this wicked kingdom, all of this evil, this current state that we in, this is gonna come to an end eventually. And then we're gonna enter into the kingdom of heaven. How much more is those accounts gonna be spoken of and written, man? So it says again, if those instruments don't play that arrangement clearly, nobody's gonna recognize it. Just like if you playing a song, right? You playing a well-known song, but your tune is just off. Not only is people not gonna recognize it, but it may even offend some people. Just something simple, like you play let me just use the example of what was playing. The Saints go marching, or come marching in, however you say it. People recognize that song. They know the notes. They know how it's supposed to sound. If you come and you playing it, you might start off on point, but then you start going, two octaves too high, or 2 octaves too low, and you off beat. It's not the octaves that match. It's not the notes that match. But no, you playing some whole other stuff where it sound like, hey, this what you got going on? Like, what you playing? This don't sound like what I know, what I remember. You real off, and it sound bad. It actually, it's offensive because how you playing it is is doing something to my body, and that's a possibility too, man. Certain music, it can affect your body in a good way or in a bad way, depending on the frequency it's given. But again, man, you something that you may do in the way that you playing, so to speak, in the way that you teaching, in the way that you laboring. If you're doing it wrong, you can offend somebody. Okay, but if you're doing it right, of course, no credit is to us. It's all to Yahweh Shem Yahushua for using us as those vessels, as those, instruments, right? But when we playing, hey, we want to play right, so we can contribute to that orchestra, that musical number, man, and bring forth that beautiful song. Let me see. It says, verse 7, or I read that. Verse 8. It says, if the bugle makes a garbled sound, who will recognize the signal to show up for the battle? Okay, so again, going back to that certain sound, we have to play that certain sound, because we have to give that proper warning. Okay, when you think about the old days of how they did things, horns was used a lot. Okay, when you think about a trumpet or any particular horn, you even have those horns that don't have buttons. It's just the horn itself. You have horns that was for marriages and feast days. You have horns that was for intruders, getting ready for war, battle. You have horns that was for particular high holy days. You have the horns that was meant for specific reasons, specific events. If you're playing a horn, a feast horn, and there's intruders on the way, you have some enemy troops coming to your village, about to jump your walls and come try to spoil your village, and you playing a feast horn, that's gonna put people at ease, and that's gonna make them be like, you know what? Oh man, I feel good. Let me go to the store and get some wine. Let me go get some strong drink, and let me go gather up this food so we can have a feast, man. We about to cook, Jake, they like to grill. But the same if that's causing confusion. The same if everybody's at ease, and there's everybody's in the spirit of feasting, in the spirit of being at ease, and you come blowing a war trumpet when there's nothing going on, there's no threat, there's no troops or anything like that. That's gonna cause confusion. It's gonna throw people off. So this is why you have to play a certain sound. Whatever time you're in, whatever situation you in, you have to play the relevant sound. We're in a time of war, right? Like speaking of what's that, Ecclesiastes? There's a time and a season to everything under the sun, man. And we in a time of war. We in a time of sorrow, of breaking down, of hatred and all of those things. We prophesied the same things that our forefathers did. The prophets that came before us, which was the lamentations, mourning, and woe. Because before we get to the kingdom of heaven, which is the peace, the love, the building, the rest, all of that, in order for us to get to that, we have to go through those other negative things, the other aspect of it. So that's the time that we in. We in the last days. So that's what we're gonna speak on. That's what we're gonna when we see these current events, and when we see these omens, when we see these eclipses, and these what you call them, these different moons and different signs in the sky. We ain't looking at that like, hey man, it's gonna be a good day. We like, man, hey, that's a sign, man. The Lord about to start doing more stuff in the earth. He's about to start really visiting much more, man. And the Lord has been visiting. You see, the love is waxing cold. People is, losing their damn minds. It's a lot more domestic violence. Hey, it's a lot more animals. The Lord put the spirit on these different animals to maul people. A baby just got mauled up by a dog. A dude just got mauled up too, man. Hey, the Lord put the spirit on everything, man. Them spirits of vengeance, hey, they out there. And that's what we have to be speaking on. We have to be speaking on the tensions that's growing amongst these other nations. The moves that Trump is making, is how they're gonna affect us. How it's gonna affect the economy and hey, man, we in them times, man. We in the last days, and it's only a matter of time, man. And that's why we have to be on one accord, because you got everybody on the same page, prophesying of the, the calamities, the perils. And then you got one person who's amongst us, but he's talking about marriage and building up a community, and, let's go travel to South America, and, and let's go to Africa and this and that. You're going to have to be checked. You may not be cut off right then and there. Unless you continue to be headstrong and self-willed after the admonition, after that reproof. But you're going to get corrected. You're going to get told, like, look, that ain't the right spirit, because the Lord is not bringing that. There's no peace coming, before the hell. So we in a time right now where the hell has to come first. So that's what we're going to speak on. Then comes the peace and the rest. All right? So let me get this last verse 9. So it is with you, unless you speak in a language that's easily understood. How will anyone know what you're talking about? You might as well save your breath. Okay, so yeah, if you out there, you speaking things that need not to be spoken, man, it's a waste of breath. Because for one, it's false. It's not going to come to pass. And for two, you're causing confusion. It's just as it would be better for you to hold your tongue. Like the scriptures even say, a fool, when he hold his tongue, is even counted wise. Roughly paraphrasing. All right. But yeah, I just wanted to touch on that real quick, man. And Lord willing, I do pray it was edifying. And with that, I'm going to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashim Yahweh Shai, Bahashim Chakodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Salutations, peace, blessings, and safety unto the whole full elect. DTA Abba Babal, Kwame Shala. Till next time, Shalom.